Do you know how bad of a man you gotta be to make the Scots down there in Huntsville look decent? Let's talk about it.
Oh yes, bitches and hoes. I'm back.
I drop a player like it's nothing, it ain't working out. Now no debate up for discussion, bitch, I'm walking out. My time is money, I ain't loving, let you toast it out. Flip my weave and walk it out. Look how I just bossed it out. Now come on, baby, why you bugging? We can't talk it out. I keeps it moving, I ain't tripping, lost another spouse. I'm just a boss, it's in my blood, no, I won't scream or shout. Grabbing my keys.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Voodoo back with a quick little video, and we're doing a review of Love and Marriage Detroit season 1 episode. I want to say it's 3 or 4. It'll be correct down there in the description. And I will start off by saying this. I know that the guys down there in Huntsville are trash. That is just a fact. You know what I mean? But I think this Brandon and Christina situation is even worse than that. And it's because of the amount of gaslighting, the amount of victim blaming and shaming and all this stuff. And it's just disgusting. I wish that, this wasn't up for public consumption. But I decided, because originally I was like, I'm not even going to review this show no more because it's just too toxic. But then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I can turn this around and use this as a learning tool because there's a lot of young girls out there that want to get married, a lot of girls in the church and all of that, you know what I mean, that want to follow God's commandments. And nothing wrong with that, but we got to be mindful of what to look for when it comes to these things that can really tear you down as a person. Because I tell you what, if I were in any of these marriages, I would have been divorced already, any of them. I'm talking about Anthony and Toya. And I really have some words for her. And we're going to talk about that. But Anthony and Toya, Brandon and Christina, or Kobe and Russell. It's just disgusting. But let's get into the episode. So the episode opens up where we left off last week. After Anthony basically jived into their relationship and saying how he needs to have he has too many constraints on him. Christina felt some type of way because Brandon and the boy Bravo was sitting up there hollering Anthony, and the boy Bravo was sitting up there hollering, oh, well, he's going to go to the club. It's going to happen. Like you're going to let him go to the club. And then Brandon says he feels like all of those dudes are basically sprinting to their goals and he's just jogging because she's holding him back. And he says that she's oblivious to the shackles and all she care about is her image, and the way the world thinks she looks. But he says she's insecure. But then he gets up in a condescending way and was like, but just so y'all know, everybody, she's not insecure. She's not insecure. He was like, but all she worried about is her image. Listen, that is the most horrible thing. I was like, how are you doing this to your wife in public? Doing it to your wife, period. But then to her in public, you know what I mean? I don't understand. And then you want to holler, I shouldn't have to clear stuff up with my mom. But like she said, you don't have to clear stuff up with your mom because you're not married to your mom. You have to clear stuff up with your wife. A marriage is about communication. It is not about you being a man and being able to do whatever it is you want to do. And this is why everybody shouldn't be married, because most people don't even know what all goes into a marriage. And that's just facts. I didn't like the fact that not only was Brandon jumping on her, but the other one, the what I called him, what name I gave him, Sassy, and Bravo was jumping on him too, Anthony. I didn't like that. And you know what else I didn't like? Toya, I don't like you. And let me tell you why I don't like Toya. Because instead of you sitting up there calming your man down, telling your man, leave them people business alone, pulling him to the side and telling him, look, we at our event, let's let it go. You over there smirking at Christina's pain, and I don't like that. And at the end of the day, it's giving none of y'all are real friends anyway. Anytime you can sit there and smirk at a woman being, jumped on by multiple men. And I'm not saying jumped on physically, but she was literally jumped on by multiple men. I don't like that. So now Christina has had enough, and Christina was like, you know what? I don't even want to talk to y'all no more. Because Anthony over there, sassy, over there talking about, no, let's talk. And she was like, no, I don't want to talk no more. She was like, because I shouldn't have to defend myself in front of all these people, and including from my husband. She was like, I'm literally sitting up here having to defend everything about me, you know what I mean, to all of y'all, and I shouldn't have to do it. And he's over there hollering about she's not supportive of his career. And like she said, what about my career? You never bring up the fact that I put everything on hold for the last 7 years to have your babies, right? And it's always all about you. It's never about me. She put everything to the side, and basically he doesn't care because all he cares about is his career and his artist. Like she said, I let you manage your artist. I just don't want you in the clubs. Now, I get it. Let me say this. In order for him to do what he does, Christina, he got to go to the club. That's just what it is. Unless you go marry a man who work at the library or drive a bus or something like that, he's gonna have to go to the club. He's not gonna be able to do his job to the best of his ability without going to the club. However, Brandon's behaviors, every single time he's got something going on, he don't say nothing to this girl. He waits till she got to find out from the streets instead of him, and then he wonder why she don't want him in the club. He's not making an environment conducive enough for her to feel safe enough to say, okay, babe, if you need to go to the club tonight to do X, Y, and Z, that's fine. He's not doing that. But instead of him recognizing that or realizing that and even being honest about that, he's just flipping it on her like she has an issue with him for no reason. She has a valid reason for you not to be in the club. But ultimately, you're not even harboring an environment for her to want to go to the club, want to allow you, to go to the club. And that's just that. Now, the only thing triggered man bun over here was when that girl said, you act like I can't get another man and I can. She said, you act like I can't have any other man I want, and she can. Now he's over there. Now he want to jump up. See, this is what I'm talking about. And Sassy, you want to hold him back and be like, no, bro, just chill. You started this. You and Bravo. Like, y'all started this. And at the end of the day, y'all need to be out of them people's marriage. That has nothing to do with y'all. Brandon, let me tell you something. Brandon is, we had 2 minutes? Yes. Brandon is a fuckboy. Let's talk about it. Brandon ain't worth a dime. Brandon needs to go back to wherever he was where you picked him up from, Christina, and you need to go on with your life. I know you love marriage and you love the institution and all of that, but you are going to stress yourself out to no end. You just are. You're going to make it to a point where you're not going to be able to even be within yourself. So anyway, they ushered them all out. Everybody's going home. Apparently, they going to their condo that's like right around the corner from the venue. And they get to talking. And he asked her, do you even want to be married? And she said, yeah. And he was like, why? She was like, what you mean why? He was like, because at this point, I feel like all you care about is the institution, but not the actual marriage. I agree. And let me tell you why I agree. Because a lot of women, just like Christina, just like Kobe, and just like Toya, they like to be able to say, I'm married. And they like that. That means more than the actual marriage. I believe that. I believe that 100%. Now, is that a way for Brandon to get off of his duties? Absolutely not. So when she get to telling him, listen, you acting like, first of all, you allowing all these people to jump on me, including yourself. You not having my back. Then you acting like I'm having invalid reasons to say what I'm saying. And then you want to call me insecure, knowing how that makes me feel. Instead of him addressing that, see, this is a tactic that I found men do. Instead of him addressing that, he flips it on something that he didn't like. She said like, oh, but you want to say that you can get another man. She was like, well, I can. Like, what's the point? I can. But see, he wants to put the focus on that so that he doesn't have to be held responsible for what he did and said. That's typical of somebody who don't want to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. They rather just find other issues to point out than to basically say, yeah, I was wrong. I shouldn't have did this or I shouldn't have did that. And it's disgusting at this point. Nevertheless, she gets ready to go inside. He basically said he ain't coming in there, and she go upstairs by herself and he go off by himself. Baby, when I tell you he would have heard from my lawyer expeditiously the next morning, but that's your marriage. Let's move on. So now Sassy and his wife decides to have a conversation about it. And now she want to sit in the car hollering about she was embarrassed. She had some movers and shakers over there. I wish I would have gotten a photo. Girl, I didn't see no mover nor shaker. At least they didn't look like it. But nevertheless, she over there hollering, it ain't our business. This is going on too much. They got to stop coming out here with their business to us. No, your husband is jumping in and interjecting into their business. But see, instead of you addressing him saying, hey, look, when we invite them out, stop asking Brandon about this. Stop asking and talking to them about their business, because this was embarrassing. It ruined my event. I didn't like it. Instead of you saying that, no, you sitting up here hollering, they just bringing it all around. No, your husband is one of the main culprits why it keeps coming up. So then they get to talking about her wine, and basically he said he support her because he put his money up for the wine. He said he put up a sizable coin. Now, when they get in their confessional, she basically said, well, it was kind of like our money. And he was like, no, it was money from my business. And you can tell she just humbled herself because she didn't want to embarrass him. But I'm pretty sure he used their money, like she said. And I'm going to just say that. But at the end of the day, I don't even care about you, Toya. I don't care. I'm not calling you doctor, nothing. I don't care. Because you are very, I don't like you. Just that. I don't like you. Nevertheless, they get to arguing about who to whine for and him supporting her and how she don't support him going back to Atlanta. She don't want to hear it. But girl, let your man go down there and get his bussy bopped. Let's move on. So now Kobe have her mom and her pa come over there so that they can explain to her why they making plans about her household and her marriage behind her back. You want to know why, Kobe? Because you were raised in that type of religious space, in that Christianity space, to where the man is the head of the household and nothing is over the man but God. I know, trust me. I grew up in the Jehovah's Witness, the Baptist, the Catholic, all of that, girl. I know all of that. But the problem is when men weaponize that. And that's what you're going through right now. So now you sit your mom and your pa down and you ask them, why would y'all have a conversation? Well, first you ask them, did they know about divinity school? And your daddy tried to play it off like he didn't know, but then he was like, yeah, I knew. I ain't gonna lie, I knew. And she was like, well, how is it that y'all could know about this 3-4 weeks, into him being in school without telling me? Now, instead of daddy saying, I understand how you feel, and because this is your household, I probably shouldn't have interjected and gave him my blessing without him talking to you. He then goes on to say, well, when God puts it on a man's heart to do it, he gonna do it. And this the wife. When you can't come into that, in between that relationship with the upward, talking about between the man and the God, for the lateral, talking about between him and her. Basically saying, you supposed to be, as a wife, you supposed to shut your ass up and let your man, say that God is leading him and guiding him, and you just sit there and take it. See, you are trying to have a voice. And in this type of situation and institution, you don't get to have a voice. Fact. That's what the mama was saying. And in that moment, I understood why she said, given her growing up and, her lifestyle coming up, she don't want nothing to do with no man that want to be a pastor. Well, you did marry a man that was heavy in the church, didn't you, Kobe? Didn't you not marry a man that was heavy in the church? Now, he say he gonna be a chaplain. You say you ain't got no issue with that because chaplains ain't that big of a deal. Technically, honestly, in the military, girl, chaplains be them niggas, you know what I'm saying, and white boys who, they got the cross on their little uniform, but they be wild as hell too, especially them chaplain assistants. Girl, watch your man. Nevertheless, what I'm saying is, that's what you married into. Now, you okay with him being a chaplain, but you not okay with him being a pastor. And we gonna get to that later. But at the end of the day, your mama and your daddy is basically trying to gaslight you to make you feel like you are wrong for wanting to have an opinion and a voice. See, that's the life your mama chose. Because back in them days, you had to choose that, or you had to settle for that because you wanted a man to take care of you and your kids. You know what I'm saying? But in 2023, where the playing ground is even, women have voices, and you can't have both. You can't be heavy into the be heavy into the church and heavy into the beliefs of the church and then turn around and want to mix it up. Sometimes it works, but for the most part, when you're dealing with a man such as Russell, who has that mentality like your daddy, who's going to basically make plans about him and your household behind your back and feel like you shouldn't have nothing to say about it. When you're dealing with a man like that, that's what you get. I just say it is what it is. If that's what you like, that's what we love. Let's move on. So now Anthony, Sassy, FaceTimes Brandon Man Bun to see how he doing. And we come to find out Brandon ain't been at the house since that night of that doggone event. Now this sends shockwaves to Sassy because Sassy was like, bro, first of all, you gonna blow our cover. And then he was like, secondly, like, I know y'all had y'all little argument, but bro, you gotta go get your wife back. That's your family. That's your queen. It's gotta be Team Smith. Like, now you want to coach him up on how to be a man, Sassy. And that's the problem I have. You've been a thorn in that marriage since the show started, and now you want to double back because you feel like it might be over and tell him that, you know what I'm saying, he need to go get his wife. No, he need to continue to take man advice from you, right? Then you say you got your boys back anyways. So Anthony decides to use himself as an example and talk about how he wanted to go to ATL, but when his wife called him and told him, you stay your ass down there in the ATL and get your bussy bop, then you ain't got to worry about never coming back here because I'm divorcing your ass. And he told Man Bun, he said, you don't want no other, well, your kids call it no other man daddy, do you? And typically that's what gets to a man. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it make sense. And then, Man Bun said, no, you right. I don't want that. He was like, well, go get your girl, man. Go get your wife. That's your queen. Go get her. Now, this makes Brandon Man Bun feels good because he said that he's not the only one going through it. How does that make you feel good? You want to see other people fall? I don't know, but we gonna see here in the future. Brandon ain't worth a dime. Let's move on. Now, Chelsea goes check on her friend and also get fitted because she wanted to style her for some event or whatever the case may be. And she asks her friend, girl, what's been going on? I ain't heard from you since Sassy cussing my ass out. That's basically what she was saying. And then Christina sits down and tell her, girl, listen, Brandon ain't been back here since we had that argument, girl. He been staying at the other house. And she couldn't believe it. And I'm sitting here saying, why couldn't you believe it? But anyway, in between her saying how she always loved fashion, we don't care about none of that. You look cute, girl. We don't care about none of that. She gets to talking about how she had to defend herself not only against two dudes but her husband as well, and she didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? But she says that she's gonna fight for her marriage. She's a fighter. She said, I'm a fighter, and I'm gonna fight for my marriage and my husband, even if it means him physically being here, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually being at another woman's house. I'm a fight for my husband. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, the girl Chelsea was just like, oh, wow. Cause see, what's her name? Christina's whole thing is she want her children to live in a 2-parent home, and this is the problem. This is why y'all children be growing up messed up, because y'all so focused on the aesthetics of the relationship versus what's going on. Y'all so worried about your children having a mom and a daddy at the house when you not even realizing, yeah, he's physically sleeping here in night at the bed, or at night, I'm sorry, in the bed. But when it's time for him to actually be a father, he is absent. He may as well be outside of the home, fed. You may as well leave him now while you're young and pretty, because you know what I'm saying? You still look good, girl. Go ahead on. I would leave Brandon at the door. But you're going to fight for your marriage. But I do give you this. You say if he want to leave, I can't stop him from leaving. It's just giving ill. Let's move on. So now Sassy takes his wife on a date at least once a month, they said. And they on this date and they get to talking. And Sassy basically says that, you know, he got to go back to Atlanta for a meeting. So, you know, Toya was like, well, why are you saying it like that? I don't have an issue with you going. I have an issue with you staying. Like, it's cool. She was like, I don't want you to move down there. So he said he was going to be back and forth. So he don't know why she's tripping. And she said no, because she had black boys and they were experiencing racism in this doggone private school at the end. Black people, come up to the front of the congregation. Let's talk about this. Let me just say this. I get it. When you get money, you want your child to have the best education possible. And I'm all for it. I'm here for it, fat. But the problem is when you put your brown copper color baby into a school with a bunch of clear people who know nothing but what they hear in the insides of their home of their rich parents, who is probably most likely most of them, probably really, really racist. What do you expect your children to go through when they go to school? Not only by the kids, by the teachers, the principals, everybody else. We have to start finding better institutions for our copper colored kids so that they can actually go and get the best education and still feel safe, welcoming amongst their own people. You don't have to put them in a private school with them clear kids. Them clear kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do that, but you do that. Nevertheless, so Sassy said that he was going to be back and forth and he didn't leave his kids. You know what I'm saying? He said, but she made him feel like he just up and left his kids, and that's not the case. And she was like, listen, all I'm saying is I need you home. I needed you here with me with that. I couldn't have taken care of that by myself. I understand that, but Toya, I don't care about you. So it is what it is, because you're the type of woman that'll smirk at another woman's pain. You know what I'm saying? But Sassy says he feels like he don't get to have an opinion because he's a man. He said if the roles were reversed, he would hold her down if she needed to go down to Atlanta. Yeah, all right. Let's move on. So now Kobe brings Russell to go rope climbing after he know his father-in-law has put in a good word for him to go ahead on and gave the blessing, you know, to go ahead on and do his thing down there at the Divinity School, even though he already in there. It don't matter. So, okay, they get to doing the doggone rope climbing thing or whatever. They are both very athletic, so I can see how that being a good date. So now after they finish, Russell tells her it was kind of like a team building thing, kind of like symbolism. Like, I wanted you to see that sometimes you can lead, sometimes I can lead, but if we work together, we good. Kobe was like, well, I ain't got no problem with that. She was like, but I just feel like, you know, you got to include me on things. So then he asked how it was talking to the parents, even though he probably got downloaded when the daddy left the house. And then she said, you know, I talked to him and they found a way to just like have your back. And I didn't like that, you know. He said that he's on God's side and that God's sending him to go down there to Divinity School. Again, weaponizing religion, Christianity, and the Bible. That's what he's doing. Girl, how do you know that God's, you know what? That ain't my place to question. Anyway, so then he made a Freudian slip. You know what a Freudian slip is? That's when you say something that you purposely mean not to say, but you slip up and say it on mistake. So he made a Freudian slip and said, because when I go be a pastor, and she said, pastor, I thought you just said chaplain. And he said, oh, yeah. That's what I mean, chaplain. She was like, you ain't talking about no pastorship, is you? And he said, no, that ain't on my heart right now. Girl, get ready to get your brim hat and your suit, girl. You're going to be the first lady. You can sit up here and tell him you ain't going to be no first lady, girl. You're going to be right there in your brim hat with your suit with your bedazzles on it. That's what you gonna be, because you just, that's just what it is. But he said he gotta move if the Lord tells him that he's moving. He needs to move, and he needs her to be supportive, and she's not being that. Girl, like I said, if you like it, I love it. Go ahead on, get your outfits together, First Lady. You're gonna be down there looking like Giselle Bryant. Let's move on. So now Sassy, his wife Toya, and his homeboy who used to be the coach of the Detroit Lions, and his old lady or wife or whatever, I don't goddamn know. They all go on a boat ride because they ain't been back to Detroit in a while. They want them to see how Detroit's been coming up. So as soon as they sit down, they start having casual conversation, and Toya brings up the fact that he trying to run down there to the ATL and asked him, did he know about it? And he said, Sassy stood up and said, well, I told him when I was all about all that. And I felt like it was a great opportunity for me to do TV and film, and I missed it. And he was like, because you was trying to make me feel like I was a deadbeat and I was going to leave my children. I wasn't going to leave you and my children. I was going to basically, go back and forth. And she was like, well, you didn't give me all the details. He was like, because you act like I just up and left. She said, well, you kind of did. And he said, no, I told you. She was like, you didn't give me all the details. You basically said that, you was going to go down there, but you didn't say you was going to stay down there. His thing was staying down there is not really the issue, because it was going to be kind of like a back and forth. Then he gets to hollering about how his grandfather was able to make the choice to come up to Detroit. Because, I don't know if y'all know this, Detroit, Chicago, those are populated with a lot of people who have lineage from the South. A lot of those places that a lot of black people that occupy, I'm drawing a blank. A lot of people that occupy Chicago and Detroit came from like your Mississippi, Alabama, from the deep South. A lot of them did. But anyway, he said that, you benefiting off your grandfather making a decision to get us up here, and you don't want to let me leave. So then she said, that ain't really the case. I'm just trying to sit up here and say, I needed you here. He says, all I heard was you say that if I go down there to Atlanta and get my bussy bop, that I can't come back. And you said, and she said, I'm sorry, that's not really what I said. But what I said was, if you don't come back, I got to move on with my churn. You know what I'm saying? My problem with you, Sassy, is all you had to do was just create an environment where you and your wife and your kids come down to Atlanta. But see, you don't want to do that, because if you do that, you ain't going to be able to, operate how you want to operate. So anyway, he get to talking about how her daddy, who's a bishop, called him and said, we need to talk, because what you not gonna do is disrespect or play on my child and my grandchildren. You feel me? And he felt like everybody was against him. He said for once he wants somebody on his team. He need her family. He need her. He need everybody on his team. He said, it's just, not cool. Now the lady asked her, could that be a bias from her daddy? And she was like, no, my daddy said God don't operate in confusion, and he don't. He claims it wasn't confusion, but then he get the crying and acting the fool. You know what I'm saying? He said they questioned his ear from God. I question your ear, and I question Russell ear. I do. I would have questioned it too, because it sound about right to me. But he get the crying saying, I just want somebody to be here for me. For once, I just want to be here for me. If it was you, I would have dropped everything and came on down there. Because I'm a good man, Savannah. I'm a good man, Savannah. How can you do this to me? How can you make me feel like I'm not a good man, Savannah? And she get to looking like she felt bad. And I'm over here looking like, who gives a damn about the tears Sassy cried? Sassy, wipe your tears and move on. That was the end of the doggone show, girl. I hope y'all learned something. I hope y'all learned what not to do and what not to marry, child. Drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all think. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the doggone video, follow me on TikTok. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.